The Winter War by Priscilla Shirer with Gina Detweiler. Chapter 39, The Red Dragon. High up on the sky pod, Xavier lay flat at the edge and kept his eyes on the mountain, waiting for some sign that Levi and Brianna had made it to the top. They have to be there by now, he thought. What's taking them so long? Maybe they got stuck. Maybe they gave up. Too many possibilities. It was getting dark, and soon he might not be able to see anything at all. Come on, guys, he whispered as Levi and Brianna could hear. Where are you? He looked down to the tree line. He couldn't see any warriors. He hoped they were there, that Ivy and Finn had managed to assemble them. His palms began to sweat. His breath felt stuck in his chest. The longer they waited, the more time they gave Thane to redirect his catapults toward the sky pod. Evan, he called out. There was no answer. Evan! Still no answer. Xavier finally turned around. He saw Evan and Manuel lying against Tannen's big belly. They were both asleep. Annoyed, Xavier got up and walked over to them. He kicked the bottoms of their boots. Wake up, he said. You're supposed to be keeping watch. What? Sorry, Evan said. I'm just so tired. Yeah, me too, said Manuel, rubbing his eyes. I can't believe you fell asleep, Xavier said. We're in the middle of a war here. It's kind of a boring war, Evan said with a yawn. When's something going to happen? As soon as the words were out of his mouth, the ground in front of him burst into flame. Evan and Manuel both screamed at the same time. Tannen gulped and spread his wings, flopping over to the side. Xavier dove under the cover of the wings with the two boys grabbing his seed shield from his pocket. Dragon, he yelled. Evan and Manuel fumbled for their seeds. The dark shadow of a giant red dragon loomed over the sky pod. It roared and blasted them with its fiery breath, just as Xavier threw up his shield. Manuel followed his lead. Tannen bellowed and took off after the red dragon. The two dragons grappled in the air above the sky pod, and random blasts of flame landed all around the warriors. My seed, Evan shouted. He had pulled his seed out of his pocket too hastily. It flew out of his hands and landed several feet away. Get it, Xavier shouted. Evan started to crawl toward the seed. He was about to grab it when a bone breaker flew in out of nowhere and snatched it in its beak. No, Evan yelled at the bone breaker as it flew away. No! Levi and Brianna cautiously poked their heads above the dark cloud that encircled the mountain and took deep breaths. The noxious fumes of the cloud had made them feel dizzy and disoriented, so they took a moment to rest and gaze up at the dawning journey that still lay ahead before them. The terrain around the crater looked like a carpet of blackened blobs folded all around each other. In between the blobs ran red, spidery rivers of hot lava that occasionally erupted into fires. It's worse than the last time I was here, said Levi. It's going to be like walking on hot coals, Brianna said. Well, at least it's warmer up here. It was so warm, in fact, that both of them had broken into a sweat. Levi took out the glimmer glass and raised it up in the fortress high above him. He saw masses of lava forgers gathering on the ramparts. They looked as though they were getting ready to begin another fireball assault, and several of the catapults had already been repositioned to face the sky pod Xavier had captured. They're going to attack the sky pod, he told Brianna. They must know Xavier is there. We've got to get up there before that happens. Can we actually walk on this stuff? Brianna reached down to touch the blackened rock. Steam rose up around her finger. It feels kind of crinkly and soft, and it's still hot. We might sink, and there's fire everywhere. Our boots will get us through. What if someone sees us, the bone breakers, the forgers, or Thane? Seems like they're more interested in the sky pod right now, Levi responded. Keep your shield ready, just in case. Grasping their seed shields in their fists, the two warriors started to make their way to the rim. As soon as Levi put his foot on the black crusty rock, he felt his boot heat up and vibrate slightly. He looked down and saw something silvery emerge from the bottom. At first, he thought that the lava was burning through his boot and was about to pull it away. But as the silvery substance worked its way up the boot, he realized it was some sort of lining for protection. His eyes widened. Our boots are fireproof, he whispered. They climbed slowly, their silver-lined boots leaving deep impressions in the burning rock. Suddenly they heard a violent screech and a sound like a blast furnace firing up. They swiveled to see a huge red dragon engaged in a mid-air battle with Tannen over the top of the sky pod. The two dragons attacked each other viciously, spewing fire everywhere. It's Tannen, Brianna whispered, and just keep going, Levi said. Don't look at them. It took all Levi's concentration to continue the steady trek up the mountain, especially with the dragon battle going on and the sense that, despite what he had told Brianna, he had a strong feeling they were being watched, maybe by the bone breakers, or maybe by that broken down king who called himself Nameless. Someone knew they were there and wasn't about to let them get away unscathed.